As we wake up this morning, the great thaw of 2014 hopefully continuing here in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. And here to talk about that spring will be here, and I believe, well, I said 14 days earlier, but it's less than that.
It is, yeah. We'll actually talk about that.
We tape late here in the week. Hey, look who's here. Chief Meteorologist Jay Pershback.
How you doing?
Enlisting Jay for what is a semi-annual visit here on Conklin and Company to look back at this winter that has really left us speechless at times. And
it has.
Sometimes the words we choose to speak can't be repeated on television. Jay.
You know what, though, Lee? On Facebook and Twitter, sometimes some of those words we can't say on TV.
Yeah, they get out there.
They sneak out, yeah. And I think the attitude of the people watching today, the majority anyway, have really turned from let's break that record snowfall this year to enough.
Enough, yeah.
The days are getting longer, the sun's out, let's just change this now and talk about some spring and summertime weather. So looks like there is a change in the populace to move on, and it looks like we'll do just that, we think, over the next couple of weeks. Yeah,
and the Friday this past week, we're taping on Thursday afternoon for full disclosure here, but on Friday we expected temperatures would warm up, stay in the 30s this weekend, right?
The 30s this weekend, a little light snow, and then next week kind of an up and down pattern, which is very normal for this time of the year in March. And speaking of normally, that polar vortex.
Oh, we've heard a lot about that.
It's a buzzword this year, it seems like, in the
and your reaction to it
off
camera has been pretty interesting.
It has, yeah. You see it there on the graphic. This is from the National Weather Service, and that polar vortex, it's always there in the winter. The fact that these lobes of cold air come off of that and move into the Midwest is what's been making the headlines, and the fact that it's happened over and over and over and over and over and over this year is really making headlines for the eastern half of the U.S. But notice out westly, we're talking California, Arizona, New Mexico, they've had a record warm and dry winter. So it's just kind of a seesaw effect. When it's colder to the east in those blue areas, it is a bit warmer, if not much warmer, out to the west.
Finally got some rain pre-Oscars, right, out in Los Angeles. Finally got some much needed rain out there.
Unusual to get that. I know it's normally nice and beautiful in Southern California, but the timing wasn't great for the Oscars. But yes, as far as the forest fires for the upcoming warm season, and just to give those folks some water, the reservoirs are actually now getting lower and lower. So that was some beneficial rain for them as well. Our snow?
Yeah, we saw that graphic, and this is what I think all of us will remember when we tell the grandkids.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember the winter of 2014 when this happened.
Correct. The benchmark for most of our lifetimes, people watching today, 1977, 1978. That was the benchmark for snow, the blizzard of 78, for cold, for wind, all those blizzard-like things. But this year, as of last check here, 76.5 inches of snow. So this is the new benchmark when it comes to snow. And as you know, we can always get one or two storms in March. Usually about 3 to 5 inches, I think, is the average snowfall for the month. And then into April, a little bit more on the way.
This looks like homework, Jay.
I know it's Sunday. I know it's Sunday.
Look at that graphic there.
But let's go through it here. So the coldest March day, it's a phenomenon that doesn't happen a lot. That's why we had to kind of break this down to say how unusual and how rare March 3rd was. The high was 12, the low was 4 below. So you get an average temperature. You take the 2, divide by 2, you get 4 for the average temperature of the day. Now, we have the records that go back 142 years, times 31 days in March, and back then it was plus 3 days. This is when I made the graphic a few days ago here. But basically, of all the March days in our record books, this is the coldest. And that includes 4,400 and some odd days of records. So think about going through March 142 times, and March 3rd of this year was the coldest day of all those. Yeah, that's why that number is so special. So if you've imagined that it's been very cold all winter, and March has not changed much, that's one example of, you're exactly right.
Yeah. Any particular reason, we always hear, Jay, about this global warming thing, but any particular reason that can point to a winter this harsh?
One reason that I think scientists are kind of picking up on more and more is the fact the sun, the cycles with our sun, kind of dictate what happens with our climate. Back in the 70s, like the year 77, 78, and 79, the sun was very dormant. And we get these sunspot cycles that go up and down every 11 years or so, I believe. And it seems like that kind of matches up with what happened back in 77, or the mid-70s anyway. And so that was kind of a clue that this could happen. Also, when these cold spells happen, they can build on themselves. The coldest year, I think, was 1979, after the snowiest year, because like this year, the lakes are frozen, have snow on the ground into the springtime.
The old snowpack.
Yes,
right?
so that slows down
Tough
the
to
start
warm
of
things
spring. So looking at the next year, with that cold lake water having longer to warm up, it might not get to where it normally gets, and it starts cooling down as normal, which could set up an even colder year next year.
And that was my next question.
Yes.
Foreshadowing, looking ahead to this spring. We've heard that the long-range forecast is colder than normal, right?
A little bit, yep.
Too early for summer yet?
Too early for summer. Yeah, I think the next few weeks, at least we're seeing with our computer models, and I'm not a big believer in long-term forecasting because if we can't get the next 3 to 5 days right, you can't get the next 3 to 5 months right. But all indications with the oceans and the sun and the time of the year, the days getting longer, the sun getting stronger, it does look like we'll start seeing more ups and downs versus just these downs and being stuck in this Arctic air, but at least getting up into the normal range, then falling back a bit, maybe a little above normal, then falling back. So a sign that once we get rid of the snowpack, that it should accelerate and really start to warm things up.
We're getting rid of some of that snowpack this weekend. But
A little bit.
What do you think those snow piles in all the malls? When do you think those will be gone?
Oh, they might last all summer. No, I'm kidding.
April, May?
Probably
May?
April, because I do think we'll get some cold nights between now and then. Days aren't completely long yet. They're getting longer, but they're still relatively short. So with all that, and remember we had a few weeks ago a little meltdown. Got warmer for a day or two, and then it melted.
Right.
So that made that snowpack into a layer of
Ice.
very thick ice, which is very good at reflecting back that sunshine back to the sky. So it doesn't really absorb much of that heat. So it could take, well into April, maybe even in those areas where it's we're in the shade, those big snow piles in the shade where they don't get the sun. Maybe June this year.
Oh, stop.
Who knows? Who knows? We'll have to see. Again, that's a long-term forecast, but a lot longer than last year, I can say that.
Unbelievable. It has been an unbelievable winter of 2014. But once again, as we tape here, I think today would be the 9th, so we're looking at how many days till spring is?
Days till spring is the 20th, so that'd be 11 more days. Until
11
spring.
days. We'll get there. We'll
All
get
right,
there.
together.
Thanks for helping us get through.
You're
Chief
welcome.
Meteorologist Jay Burschback here on Conklin and Company. We're going to come back in just a minute. Healthcare reform, the deadline is quickly approaching. A little past that first day of spring. We'll do that with Marlene Harris-Taylor, the Toledo Blade, when we come back.